Gilad Zubery, the legend, the one and only. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much for coming on. I'm so happy that we managed to spend some time. I know that we've crossed paths over a few companies. We've helped each other out here and there. And I'm so happy to finally actually put a face to the name and have a long chat with you and find out who you are, how you did your climb, and let's get into it. Well,
likewise. Thank you for having me, and it's great to be interviewed by such a legend.
Thank you so much.
Not many recruiters are former sales leaders, and that is very rare, and I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I just do sales, is because that's all I know, really, and that's one reason I do that. But let me start off with you. So I want to understand a little bit about. Tell me a little bit. How did you get into sales? Right now, you're at Dealhub, right? You're a CRO at Dealhub. How did you get into sales?
Oh, wow. That's a long story. I don't know where to start from. But about almost 12 years ago, I was a lawyer who didn't want to practice law with a business degree, with no idea what I want to do with my career. And actually, my best childhood friend worked at a company called ClickTail. So he calls me up and he says, "You have to come work here." His name is Asaf Limon, and he literally pushes me through the door. He forces them to hire me. He forces me to come to interview. He literally one night tells me, "Just come to the office, meet my boss." And I joined ClickTail, and I started as an SDR. And after just a few months, someone leaves the company. And they reach out to me and they say, "Hi, how would you like to manage this partnership with a Japanese partner? It's essentially managing an Excel sheet. It's like 200K. It's not a big deal." I said, "Sure, why not?" I look at the thing and I said, "Wow, there's a massive potential here." 2 months into that, someone else leaves the company. And they're like, "How would you like to run some accounts in Asia, Asia Pac?" I said, "Yes, why not?" Then another person leaves and they're like, "How would you like to also start doing new business sales there and just take that entire region?" And I said, "Sure, what's there to lose?" And they literally told me, "Look, if you fail, no one will care. If you succeed, it will be great." So that's my favorite thing in my career: low expectations and overachieving on that.
And overachieving. Wow, that is phenomenal. Actually, that's where I started my management career at ClickTail. And I'm sure some of the people that you know there, I know as well. And yeah, it's incredible. It's a small, in Israel, it's a very small network. Wow, that's an incredible story. So you actually came from law. That was your well, I mean, you studied law, but did you actually practice or
for a year?
For a year, and then you're like, "This is not for me."
No, I did not like it.
I'm going a different direction. I'm going a different direction. And then you went to sales. Well, you know what? That's funny, because in sales, you actually need a lot of communication skills. You need those negotiations. You need that, I think coming from a law background, fantastic salespeople. So look at you.
Yeah, sales is it's all about people, right? And connections, etc. And I love people. I love speaking with people. It's what I've always done. I'm just using this for selling to people. It's
unbelievable. And you come specifically, like, your forte is in the partnerships area, right? Obviously you do the direct and you understand the direct, but your forte is scalability from partnerships, right?
Yeah, so that's where I started. And essentially it's, maybe I'll take you back to my journey with partnerships, because in 2015, when I started, there wasn't a lot of documentation or organizations, or no one really understood the partner world. And I wasn't even planning on going into partnerships. But then this guy who will be my boss joins ClickTail. He comes from Adobe, and he was one of their VPs of partnerships. And he comes over to me and he's like, "How would you like to start a partner program?" I said, "Sure." I have no idea what that means. And we started that journey together, where he essentially I told him, "Look, if I'm going to manage, get me someone who knows what he's doing." So I recruit, at the time there was a company called Insighten, and I recruit their VP partnerships to work for me.
Wow.
And he's still a very good friend. He worked for me in another company after that. And they started teaching me a lot about partnerships. I also buddy up, you mentioned that other podcast I was on, with a few young partnership leaders, and we start an organization that they now founded into a business called Partnership Leaders. And we start speaking with each other and developing this. In ClickTail, it was the first step. And then in Content Square, and we can touch on that later, we really drove that to scale. But one funny anecdote: when Content Square became a 1,000-person company, I remember that was a threshold. I suddenly sat with myself and said, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea. I say to myself, if they knew, I wonder if they know, but if they knew how little I know about what I need to deliver here, I would be fired tomorrow. And I reach out to these guys from Partnership Leaders, and they set me up with one of the guys who set up the program at Salesforce at the time,
Wow.
which is state-of-the-art partner program, like, you know, the holy grail of partnership organizations. And I get on a call with him, and I keep on thanking him for taking the time. And he's like, you know, in the partnerships world, we all do what it needs. I give back to the community. And I was like, okay, so how do I win this? What do I do now? And he's like, I have no clue. I didn't know what I was doing in Salesforce. I tried to make good decisions, and I showed them all the confidence that I know what I'm doing. So that is how I started in partnerships. And yes, I truly believe till this day that partnerships is the real engine of any company that wants to scale.
Scalability,
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies start off with that direct motion, and then they move into partnerships, and then they realize that those partnerships, because you can't really have boots on the ground in every single country. And I think those partnerships are the key to drive that as well.
I see today companies that start as partner first.
Wow.
It's very difficult to flip it later. If you're starting at full on direct and the organization grew as a direct organization, making the switch to a partner-led organization is much more difficult than if you build it from day one.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've had with partnerships versus direct? There's a lot of friction always, and the first time I remember when I was a VP sales at WalkMe, I saw they had a phenomenal way of dealing with it when you obviously compensate your reps on the both from the partnership side and the direct side. What are some of the challenges you've come across or you see?
I think the basics of it, and this goes to everyone from the CEO to the individual AE working on a deal, is understanding that a partner is just like you. They have their own business and they want to make money. If you focus less about driving business and leads with them and focus more about building a practice and a business around your software within their organization, whether they're an ISV or a consultancy or a system integrator, then it will be easier for you. But if you don't, that's where friction starts.
Right.
Also, unrealistic expectations sometimes. Be only loyal to me. Don't work with my competition. These are things that, by the way, I also screwed up in the beginning. I said more than once to partners, if you want to work with me, you work only with me. Right. Which again is not realistic because I also work with their competitors. So,
wow. Yeah, it's very challenging. It's not an easy part of the business because essentially they're external, but you want them internal, right? You want them acting as an internal reference. But it's incredible. And then, so take me through your career there. So you managed you had your own people that were managing partners within Content Square? You had a team?
So we can talk about the move from ClickTel to Content Square because that's a whole story later. But when I joined Content Square, essentially, I look at what Content Square has. ClickTel was, and I'll explain later, pretty beaten up. I didn't walk into that relationship with a lot of talent to offer on the partnership side. But essentially do a reset, a hard reset. We say goodbye to a lot of people that were great for the organization until that point, but we knew that the ambition was to raise hundreds of millions of dollars and scale very, very fast. And for that, you need different people. Right. So I started with the infrastructure. I essentially drafted the partner program, and I looked forward and said, what do I want this to look like? How do I get 60, 80% of the company to be partner influenced? And what do I need for that? And then I start hiring, and I actually start hiring from leadership and then hire the ICs under. And I get all the people I get on board is people who are more experienced than I am. It's a theme with my with my career. And I get these guys, one VPs of partner sales for Europe, US, and Asia Pac, someone to lead tech partnerships, and then operations and enablement. And then I start building the organizations under them. It was a really, really tough time. I think it took about 2 years to get it from the closing the ClickTel Content Square deal to a point where we said, wow, we have a machine and we account for about 60% of the company's ARR.
Wow. So it was 60-40, 60 partnerships, 40% direct?
40% was, no, part of the partnership was with direct. It was it was like 30% sourced by partners and 30% influenced by partners.
Nice.
If you ask me, by the way, influence, also as from sitting at the CRO seat, influence is underrated. And at the end of the day, if I'm going into a big deal and a partner comes in and helps me close it, it is as valuable to me as someone who brings me a lead.
Absolutely. There's no doubt with that. And I think it's underestimated. You're right.
Yeah.
It's definitely underestimated. And I think that the more you leverage that, the more you can, you can grow. Now tell me a little bit of, so you're at Content Square, right? And I love the fact that you're at Content Square because that's, I started at ClickTail and then it moved over to Content Square. And your partnership career, that's where it started in Content Square or ClickTail? Or was that
No, ClickTail.
At ClickTail. Okay, so at ClickTail, that's where it started, and then like the actual growth, it was in Content Square. That's where you found your niche.
So very, very different partnership motions. And ClickTail, it was more about territory expansion. So my main focus was I owned Asia, I owned parts of Europe, Spain, Italy, Germany, places where we sold indirect, Brazil, surprisingly, where we had success. And then the influence part, like helping the deals in UK, North America, it existed, and we drove some very big deals, but it wasn't my main focus at the time.
Okay. Did you ever think you were going to get into sales? Like when you went to law, did you ever think about sales? Like how did this come across your mind?
I don't think I even knew it was an option, to be honest. I don't know. You asked me today, what do you want to do when you grow up? I still don't know. So
that's what I was going to say to you. What do you want to do, man?
No idea. So basically going into sales wasn't even on my mind. I didn't even know it was an option. And I remember going to, after I finished and I became a lawyer, I went to my dad's friend who's, like this big businessman. And he kind of drafted to me on a piece of paper what my career could look like. Sales was one of the things that were written there. And I looked at all of it and I said, I have no idea what the difference between sales and marketing is. So definitely was not planning a career in sales.
Wow.
But I love it.
But you love it. And you're good at it. Look, I mean, you're good at it. Look where you are today. I mean, you're CRO of a wonderful company. Tell me about the transition from Content Square to Dealhub. How did that happen? How did that all start? And was this something you planned?
Definitely didn't plan. So I was a Dealhub customer back in ClickTail and then again in Content Square. When we merged, we moved to a different CPQ provider. And then in 2022, Content Square signs with Dealhub. So I knew Eyal, our CEO, for a while, and we kept in touch. I was pretty burnt out already in 2023 at Content Square. It was exhausting. I was in New York a week before October 7th and at an event, and I was kind of on the fence on what my next steps are in my career. But I did love Content Square and I love the people. So it was a very hard decision to make. Then October 7th happened, and that kind of pushed me to a place where I was ready to part ways with Content Square, and also the business that I built there managed to stand without me while I was away, which was great because I didn't want to leave scorched earth. I wanted to leave something that would outlive me. And when I felt confident about that, I was ready for my next chapter. I started interviewing mostly for seed and round A companies. That's really what I wanted. I wanted to be the first or maximum second commercial person in the company. And I introduced Eyal, our CEO, to a friend of mine who back then closed his company and was looking to sell it. And Eyal reaches back out to me. He's like, look, I'm not really interested in your friend's company, but let's talk, let's meet. And we meet and we talk about everything, and we find out that there's a lot of alignment. I didn't know at the time when I walked in that this whole market is going to change with Salesforce announcing end of sale of their product, etc. But so I was looking for kind of a more relaxed journey, but I'm very happy that things turned out the way they did.
Wow. How long was that? That must have been quite a long process. I mean, generally as a recruiter, I see like when you're hiring for senior folks, it's usually like sometimes even a 3-month process. It's a long process.
It was about 3 months.
You got to meet all the different people, the key players. So it was about 3 months.
About 3 months, and bear in mind, in Dealhub, I was the first C-level to enter the company who, in about 6 years, and the last ones to enter were people who were either already working with the company, or so it was either founders people who promoted internally, or the external people that joined were service providers of the company that already knew the company. So I was essentially the first one walking in. It was a new thing for Dealhub.
Well, how long, you've been there for how long now? Just over a year, I think, no?
Almost 2 years. So
really?
it will
Wow.
be in a month and a half. It will be 2 years.
Wow, time
Yeah.
flies.
Time
huh?
flies.
I just remember, it seems to me like almost yesterday when there was like that announcement.
Yeah.
Like I follow the LinkedIn announcements, and then there's an announcement that you're CRO, and it was phenomenal news.
Took us a while to issue it. So
Yeah. you don't have to
Yeah.
LinkedIn straight away.
Yeah.
But that's phenomenal. And now, this is a completely different hat where you've got the whole the whole revenue organization under you. How are you finding managing that? I mean, you're obviously doing a phenomenal job, and I always hear fantastic feedback from people internally and externally about the sales organization at Dealhub. So how are you finding that, like the change from like a partnership role, like to managing the whole revenue side?
Hey, I'm very happy to hear you say that. I always get only complaints, so it's very nice to hear that people are saying nice things. I heard, I think it was the CEO of, I'm not going to say which company, but there was a guy in a podcast that I listened to a few years ago who said, I always tell employees, don't share with me good things when I come to visit.
Right.
Give me only the bad things. That's the only thing I can actually influence, and that's the only thing I get paid for. So that's what I say to my guys as well. I really picked that up. But to answer your question, I think there are three parts of my career that prepared me for this. One, my career in the military and my leadership career there, which really helped me develop my leadership skills. The second thing is the last role I did at ClickTail. And again, if we have time, I'd be happy to share more about selling ClickTail and going into Content Square. But I managed the business unit in the last year and a half of ClickTail. And I had customer success and SDR and pre-sales and sales and even support and implementation under me. It was kind of a one-stop shop for about a quarter of the company's business. And that was a mini version of this role. Obviously not the same size, scale, responsibility, etc. And I was reporting to who was the CRO of ClickTail back then. So, I had a good buffer. Which always helps. And the second thing is my role at Content Square was not just partnerships. I also held the business development hat. So we were kind of a Swiss Army knife to enter new markets. I'll give you the example with the Japanese market. We started as a partnership, and then we ran the project from, shout out to Danny Buchan, who worked for me at the time. Who also works for me right now at Dealhub.
Wow.
But he did all the market research, et cetera. Then we went and we brought in a country manager and a sales team and a marketing organization. And when everything was standing up, we moved it into the regular business of the company. And that team still stands today. So that was kind of a prep for this role. So it was very natural to walk into it. I was already at an executive team at Content Square, so I had that experience. I was watching from the side, but you're right, it was a challenge stepping into it, and sitting in the driver's seat for the first time is definitely a challenge. I think I'm doing a decent job.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, again, with salespeople and sales leadership, the results. That's the bottom line. I mean, it's very easy to measure a salesperson or a sales leader via results. So I think that's proving it. Wow, what a journey! What a journey. So I'm gonna maybe go all the way back in your career as an SDR, right? What would you and you've got a team of SDRs now, a lot of SDRs on your team. What would you suggest for young guys that want to start their career in high tech? How would you suggest that they go about entering in the high tech world?
SDR.
SDR.
Definitely. Don't try to make shortcuts.
Right.
It's such an important role. It teaches you so much. It taught me a lot of what I know today about sales. And if you can survive and be successful as an SDR, you can be a good account executive. It's not like to like, but it's a good way to do that. And I think that in today's world, and I'm seeing all these posts about you don't need your SDR team, you can fire your SDR team and replace them with Claude. I'm not denying that you can do a lot now with Claude and with other tools. At the end of the day, picking up the phone and calling your prospect and getting firsthand feedback from them is something that you can't replace with emails, LinkedIn messages, etc. You have to have that human contact. And also, gets you real feedback from the market. And there's nothing scarier than doing a cold call. For the SDRs themselves, this was what's gonna build them into to AEs. I have to tell you, here in Israel, I take people with no experience, really zero experience, and with the promise that if they're good in 18 to 24 months, I'll give them an AE role. And if not, I'll help them find their next AE role outside of Dealhub if I don't have one.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is absolutely, I wasn't aiming to steer this conversation in that direction, but this is incredible. So there's two things that I'm taking from this. Number one, you take people without experience and you grow them. You're taking for talent rather than experience, which is incredible. And number two, you're giving them a growth path. You're saying within 18 to 24 months, we're looking to build you and to put you into this position. Yeah. That is incredible. And that is so important. And I wish that a lot of companies would take up this kind of attitude.
I have no choice, by the way. It's part ideology, part reality, right? Because I'm building, and this is the place to say it, Dealhub, and this is our CEO's, this is his strategy and the way he really believes the org should be built. He believes in an Israeli-centric sales organization.
Amazing.
And that's what I got when I entered the role, and I absolutely love it. But again, there's not enough talent in Israel for all of the companies operating in the market. There's a lot of great companies here in the market and a lot of sales teams that are now based in Israel. So if I want really, really good talent and I want to control who I'm getting, and I'm finding hiring to be very, very challenging, and you know this, then developing my own talent is one of the best things that I can do. And I'm already in a very short period of time seeing the dividend.
Amazing. Absolutely incredible. This is these are success stories that I love to hear, and I wish there were more of them. I want to go back a step again. You touched on AI. Now, AI it's a good thing and it's a bad thing because we're seeing from both sides, okay, how it's been productive with a lot of companies. But the question is, and I think you touched on it a little bit, is it going to replace your SDRs or your sales folks, or is it going to complement them? Instead of hiring a team of 10, you'll hire 7 and you'll have like 3 agents, I guess. Is that how you see it, or how do you see AI in your organization today?
Who knows? If you spoke with a random person in 2006 and told them, in 2 years from now, what are you going to do? And no one would have told you I would be an iOS developer, right? What the hell is iOS?
Exactly.
Who knows? Maybe tomorrow AI will get to a point where you really can't tell the difference between a human being and AI, and they will get on phone calls and make sales. I truly believe that AI is, it's more than an efficiency tool, but it doesn't replace what we do in sales, which is building trust between 2 human beings. You can't build trust with a machine, or rather you can try. And sometimes it works. Like for the most part, trust my car, right? Which is a machine, but it's not going to replace that. And at the end of the day, people buy from people and they're looking for that human connection. And they're putting a lot at stake when they're choosing your software. If I go to my world, right? It's a critical business system and they are trusting me to deliver on that and to make sure that I make them look good and that everything is going to go well for their organization. I don't know if they would trust an AI that will then respond to them and they said, well, the system's been down for 5 hours, and the AI will say, good catch.
You're right.
So I don't think it's going to replace, but it's definitely making me personally, a lot more efficient and effective. And it's really, really helpful. But I don't see AI replaces a CRO tomorrow. I will say, I do believe that it will change the role of the CRO. And I believe that CROs are going to be less in the weeds and more become chief commercial officers, or they'll be replaced by strong VP sales that, are leveraging a super powerful CRO like Claude to help them with everything, strategy, etc.
Yeah, I think yes and no. I don't think that anybody's going to be able to replace you. I think not you specifically, like a CRO, because I think you're more from the strategic level, and you come from a strategic level. You're thinking on a holistic picture, right? You're thinking of the whole organization and how you can grow that organization in different areas. And yeah, AI will give the advice, but the actual execution is where you come into place. And another thing that you said is that I don't think AI is going to eliminate salespeople or eliminate like SDRs, it's definitely going to help. And it's definitely going to change the role. And you're 1,000% right that who knows what's going to be tomorrow? Who knows what's going to be in 3 months? This is what we have right now. And we're moving forward as fast as we can. So for the young SDRs and the people who are looking to get into sales, you don't need to worry just yet. I think that there's still so much out there to do. When you're interviewing a salesperson or an SDR, what are the key aspects that you look for?
People who think on their feet. I usually in interviews try to throw a curveball at them and see how they respond. And it's not, I care less. There's a lot of things that you can teach. You can teach people how to present. You can teach people about a sales process, etc. But you can't teach people to think fast and on their feet and how to react where things go sideways. I tried that in interviews and I see how the person responds. And that is very, very important for me.
So kind of like you're putting them on the spot, see how they handle objections or see if they're coachable.
Try to throw something that they were not expecting. And it's not like something mean necessarily, right? But I can just, throw, it's like even to what food do you like? Why don't you like that? Why do you like this? See how people respond. They're sometimes shocked. They're like, I was not expecting that question. Well,
Amazing.
Here's a question you didn't expect. How are you going to answer it right now? Because that's something it's going to happen to you daily on calls.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I like that because you're taking them out of their comfort zone and you're seeing how they handle the like different situations. And not a lot of people do that in interviews. I think the interviews are usually just scripted and they're very processed, and you answer the questions about how you do sales, the KPIs and all that nonsense. But taking them and throwing them aside is actually understanding how that person is going to work under pressure. Are they going to be coachable? Are they looking at you and saying, well, listen, I don't know that answer. Maybe you can guide me or help me. That's something is so important.
One of my favorite things to do. And again, maybe some people are going to hate me for this, but I think it says a lot about a person. And I've seen, and I'm not going to share names, so obviously I can speak freely about examples, but I sometimes go on interviews with my camera turned off. Mm-hmm. And I see, by the way, this happens to sales teams all the time. And I see how people react, because I can ask them the question, what do you do if a prospect, and people even fall with that question, but I can ask them, just put my camera off and see what they do. And, it varies between the people who are going to try to just keep their camera on and do nothing. Some that will say, oh, is there a technical problem with your camera because I can't see you, and try to do it nice. And some people who will turn off their camera. Now I'll say here, someone who turns off the camera, if my camera is turned off in an interview for a sales role, as far as I'm concerned, cannot be a salesperson on my team.
Wow.
At the end of the day, it started as a question. And when I noticed that good salespeople, by the way, it's the hardest role to recruit for. You're literally recruiting for a person who's trying to sell to you themselves and is probably a good salesperson. But I want to know who the real person is behind that. And I actually had a guy tell me, I said, why'd you turn off your camera? And he said, well, if I don't get to see them, they don't get to see me.
Wow.
And the answer I'm looking to get is, it doesn't matter. I am a professional. If the other side, if they don't put their camera on, even if I kind of said to them and they said, well, sorry, my camera's broken, I'm not going to put it on, I keep my camera on. That's a professional thing to do. I'm representing my company and the organization. So that's a curveball I love throwing. Most of them, by the way, don't realize it's part of the interview.
Wow.
They actually think I'm a jerk or something.
Wow.
I try to say it in the end and say, like, I'm so sorry about that.
Wow.
But it is
That's
important.
amazing. Wait, first of all, don't give away all your secrets about
No,
that.
no, I'm not. Trust me, even if I give them all away, the people who are going to trip over this are still going to trip over this.
Right. That's funny you say that, because a lot of the time when I give advice to new people, like going into interviews, is sometimes I say, mirror the person that's interviewing you. So if the camera's off and you mirror them, that's a big problem. That's challenging.
But you know what I'm finding? I'm finding a lot of people. There's a lot of great people that I interview, and I don't pass them not because they're not good salespeople or I don't think they're good professionals. I know exactly at this point what you need, who you need to be in order to be successful at Dealhub. And don't get me wrong, it's my employer and I love the company and I love what I do, but it's not an easy environment and it's not for everyone and not everyone is a good fit. And some people, by the way, who are super successful with me today might not be a good fit in another great tech company. And a lot of people are, they're very upset sometimes when I tell them, look, we're not going to be moving forward. And I say to them, I really say it's not you, it's us, but it's not even us. It's the fit with the company.
100%.
Camera off might be good in another company, but here has to be.
No, 100%. Every company has their specific criteria, right? Like you said, you could be the top salesperson at one of the software companies here, let's say Monday.com or even ClickTail or wherever it is, but you may not necessarily be a good fit for Dealhub because every organization has their own nuances and their different criterias in order to get into it. And another thing you're 100% right in is that sales is a very difficult position. It's not the easiest position. Everybody thinks, sales, those guys, they're having fun and everything. But it's one of the most difficult jobs and so much pressure, so much stress. And if you don't find the right people, it could be very, very challenging.
And don't forget, I also sell, I sell to my peers. We sell to revenue teams and to salespeople.
Right.
If, I'll tell you a funny story. I went last week to a car dealership to buy a car. And I'm sitting with a guy after I tested the car, etc. And he's like, listen, there's a sale, there's this offer. And I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to make a decision right now. He's like, the offer is good till next weekend. and I look at him and say, listen, we're in the same profession. All of my deals expire next week. Don't worry. I know that's BS, but for me, I'm selling to salespeople. I can't go to them and say, what I can do though, is you need to think different with them. And the biggest thing is I don't have one salesperson on my team who hasn't been kicked off a deal by the prospect at least once in the last 12 months. Whoa. Because I sell to CROs. The CROs judge my salespeople in the same standard they judge their own salesperson. They always have something to say, and we know that. We know that not everything clicks. But for them, I can't go and say to them, look, the offer is good till next weekend. What I can do, by the way, and we do often, is to try, and the smart ones do, is to try and speak our own language and say, hey, next weekend is our end of quarter. When I sold to marketers, they couldn't care less about your end of quarter. When you say to another CRO, my end of quarter is next week, if someone says that to me, I respect that. I understand what it means to be at the end of the quarter, and I will bend over backwards as someone buying software to get that person's contract signed in time, assuming I want that software. So we do the same here, but I'm saying it's a different kind of sale, and it's not for everyone. People who are used to selling to other personas will not necessarily like selling to their peers.
Yeah, absolutely. They say actually salespeople are the easiest people to sell to because we have like some kind of sympathy and we're like, on the one hand, on the other hand, you're like, I know this bullshit. I know I know that. I've got that.
I don't appreciate.
So I mean, sometimes I actually used to, when I was a manager at ClickTail, I used to set up calls to phone different companies just to understand how their sales team used to work and how they used to, what their tactics were in like objection handling and qualification criteria. So I used to try and phone not competitors, but different companies and say, okay, here's a software company, call them up and just see sort of how their sales team react and see, and you can learn a lot from different type of salespeople.
Yeah.
Let's say, again, a young person wants to take that path of becoming a CRO or going down the sales leadership path. Can you give me some sort of tools for that person to have? What would you suggest somebody do in order to go down your path? How can they set the path to get there?
So I think we're talking about two different tracks. Leadership is a profession on its own, and then go to market, commercial, anything there is also its own profession with different parts of it. If you want to go into leadership, you need to invest in becoming a leader and becoming a good leader. Now, a lot of it is things that you are born with and that you can't change. And a lot of it is things that you can learn. But there's a glass ceiling to what you can learn. I always say to people that start their journey in leadership under me, say, well, you need really 3 things, which is 2.5. The first 2 most important things is you need to actually care about people in general. And then you need to be able to make decisions. Decision making is most of what I do in a week. I make a lot of good decisions, a lot of bad decisions, and I need to make sure that with my bad decisions, I live within the damage is not too big. And the third part is is that part that you asked about. It's the professionalism. It's the actual profession. But I believe that can be that's a gap that you can usually close. If you're a good leader, I believe that you can manage almost anything.
Right.
If I tell you tomorrow, Hilton, look, I know you're a sales leader, it's all you did in your career, but tomorrow you need to go and manage a product team.
Right.
Again, depends on the stage of the company, right? When you're early on, you probably can't manage a product team because you're going to have to do a lot of hands-on work. But if I introduce you now to a product team of about 50 people, that is something that I believe a good leader, it's not ideal, but a good leader can learn. And you'll be able to do that role because you know how to manage large organizations and you'll know how to navigate this. In the same way, how do you grow a CEO of a company?
Right.
It's leadership. So if I had to give someone advice, it would be to invest in finding a path for them to grow in leadership and in leadership in the right environment. And then growing as professionals is something that I would recommend doing before in our stage. But again, depends on what you bring with and what you come with. If you come with a ton of leadership experience, go invest in yourself as a professional first. That's what I did, by the way. I came with a ton of leadership experience at the age of 30 into tech with no professional experience. And really, the biggest investments I made was not improving my leadership skills, was improving my skills as a professional, learning the ins and outs of sales, partnerships, marketing, etc. That's where I spent most of my time and effort.
Wow. This is amazing because this is taking me to a couple of the other podcasts that I do, and I'm seeing the correlation between a lot of the leaders here, right? One of the leaders said, Omri Kenan, a very good friend of mine, he's was one of the top SDR leaders here, and he said that he got his advice from Joseph Furst, also one of the top. Joe Furst. He's mentioned on pretty much every single podcast.
Joe recruited me at ClickTail.
There we go.
So yeah. By the way, he recruited me at ClickTail and then he resigned, I think, on my first day on the job.
Wow.
But I've been keeping in touch with Joe ever since. And yeah, he's kind of I would say I don't want to offend anyone, but the godfather of SDR in Israel.
Love it. I love it. Joe, this one's for you. This one's for you. I can see the halo above his head. But again, he gave some advice to Omri and he said specialize. And I think that what you've mentioned now is you're saying, take some of your traits that you have those leadership traits, but then specialize that in a certain area and go and learn and dig into the weeds about that area, about sales, about go-to-market, and learn as much as you can. And I think that that's one of the good traits. And not only learn, but build a plane while you're flying it.
Yeah, and again, I could not agree more with what you just said. When I joined Content Square, I specialized in partnerships. I was really all in with that. And in Content Square, I actually got the opportunity to work alongside a phenomenal CRO who really helped me specialize in the world of revenue, understanding the motions. And I've watched him scale the company from tens of millions on the lower end to hundreds of millions on the higher end in a period of just a few years. So being able to specialize under him and actually view what he's doing and how he's building it really, really helped my career.
Amazing. And you also just need that one person to give you that opportunity. And once you get that opportunity, take that opportunity, do the best you can. I had a boss called Stephen Friedman when I worked at LivePerson, and his advice to me and to everybody else, he's like, whatever you do in life, if you're a cleaner at McDonald's in the toilet, you clean those toilets the best as possible you can. If you're serving chips, you serve those chips with a smile on your face in the best possible way you can serve chips. So whatever you're doing at your job, do the best you can at that job and you'll succeed. And I think, a lot of leaders that I'm seeing today, they didn't request to get promoted. They got promoted automatically because of their ambition, number one.
Yeah.
And number two is because they proved the results automatically. And I'm not saying that it came to you on a plate.
No, but
you built yours. It's hard work to grow into a CRO, but you did the right steps to get there. That's what I'm trying to get to.
So one of my first mentors at ClickTail, his name is Aaron Watson. I actually mentioned three names and who really influenced my career. But Aaron Watson, he joined from Adobe. I mentioned him earlier, and he actually said to me, look, what you need to do is work very hard and do the best you can. So when a door opens, you'll be the first person considered for that role. You can't plan. You don't know what's going to happen. Where startup things are very dynamic. But essentially, Aaron was the first one who pushed me into leadership. He really pushed me up the ladder and helped me with the first years. He was also the one who pushed me to move under a different leader at ClickTail when there was an opportunity to who was our CRO at the time, Eric Holt. And he said, look, there's a lot that I can still teach you, but there's a lot that Eric can teach you. And we're very different leaders. And working under Eric was also an absolute pleasure and an honor. I learned a lot about leadership. He's a phenomenal leader and also a sales leader.
Wow.
And he also taught me about, he used to call it delighting our customers and prospects, and about how to run, a delightful sales process. But that being said, he's also one of the most aggressive salesperson people I know, and I'm saying it in the best way possible, because he does not believe in losing and he does not believe in giving up, and he works harder than anyone I ever worked for.
Wow.
And the third one is the CRO of Content Square, Pierre Casanova, who came from larger organizations and really taught me what it takes to take a small organization with a lot of ambition and scale it to the place where Content Square landed, and do that while remaining a phenomenal human being. I think that's something that connects the three of them. They're all great people, and they show. I remember Pierre used to always say, no jerks and no idiots.
Wow.
in this organization. You have to stay a good person. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do. If you're, and look, I manage salespeople. They're not the easiest people to manage. I'm sorry to all of them. But there's a big difference between being difficult with me. That's what I get paid for. I'm their boss. And it's fine for them to challenge me, than being jerks to other people in the organization. And all three leaders that kind of mentored me in the last 12 years, they were great human beings to start, and they were great professionals right after that.
Wow. Phenomenal advice. What I'm getting from this is that you also need to find that mentor who can actually believe in you and give you that opportunity. And I think that's something huge, because your mentors basically guided you and said, right, go for that position. And they believe in you and they can see that you have the professional, and they say, right, go and do this. This is what you can do. I believe in you. Go and do it. Even if it's big for you, just go and do it. And, I think that, again, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I hear it in the industry all the time. And please God, it continues that way. Before we end, there's two things we need to do. Number one, tell me a little bit about Dealhub. What does Dealhub do? And tell me a little bit about what Dealhub does.
So Dealhub is an agentic quote-to-revenue platform. Essentially, we take you all the way from where the deal begins to the life cycle management of a deal, from the first quote to being able to issue an invoice and running all of your subscriptions. It's a really critical business system, which was, by the way, very refreshing for me to sell something that is a must-have product and not a nice-to-have product.
Right.
In today's market, I would say that Dealhub is the number one enterprise agentic quote-to-revenue software to replace Salesforce, CPQ, and all of the legacy tools that we have out there in the market. And we're making a massive impact. I don't want to get into numbers because we're a private company, but since I joined almost 2 years ago, we have doubled our ARR.
Wow.
And we have probably quadrupled in a quarter the number of enterprise deals that we closed. Now, I would love to take credit for all of that. But unfortunately, the credit first goes to the great product that our teams are building, and second to the shift in the market that essentially Salesforce has put us into with the end of sale of their product. It positioned a lot of organizations who would have, even though they were not happy before, they would have never made such a big and critical change to their tech stack. But right now, they're saying, if I have to migrate anyway, I might as well look into something else. So that's what Dealhub does, and we're moving very, very fast. And actually, this whole new great world of AI has done great for Dealhub, because we're not going to be replaced by AI, but AI makes us so much better.
Wow. Amazing. I got to tell you, I love Dealhub. You know, I've been there a few times. I've put a few people at Dealhub. I really love the product. I love the people, and you know, I wish you success on your journey. But before we go, the very last thing I like to do with all my guests is sell me something. And there's one thing I bought in today. Just let me reach out. A piece of a puzzle. This puzzle. I'd love you to sell me this piece of puzzle.
Sell me the pen?
Sell me the pen, but sell me the piece of the puzzle.
Let's do it. Okay. Look, I'll be honest. I love these. I love these things. They're a little bit corny, but I love them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sell me the puzzle. Honestly, this is just a piece of cardboard with a print on it. I don't know if it has any value to you, so I don't know how to sell this to you. But I will say the way I would sell this piece of puzzle is that this piece of puzzle only brings value to the one person that I want to sell it to.
Nice.
And I need to do the right discovery. If you have, and I don't know how many pieces this is, what, 800?
1,000
Thousands?
Yeah.
1,000 piece puzzle? If you have a 1,000-piece puzzle right now in your living room table and everything is done, and you have one of your kids standing there and staring at that little piece missing there and saying, I really want that. This is valuable to you.
Absolutely.
And I can price this in almost any price that I want within reason, and you will pay to get that piece of the puzzle in. But if you don't have that puzzle, this is useless and worthless for you.
Absolutely.
I can start making up all these things. You know, Leo Messi kept this piece in the World Cup final. But at the end of the day, if I take this to what we do, we're all trying to sell to people the missing piece, puzzle piece of their pie. And you need to explain to them why this is the missing piece. And if they can see that, that's how you sell this.
Absolutely. 100%. Once they see the value, sold. Oh.
And one thing that is valuable to you might not be valuable to someone else.
Absolutely.
And if you didn't do your discovery right, you're going to just continue in a sales cycle that is never going to end. So I'd love to sell you this. You brought this from home, so I assume there's value. So if you want it back, there's going to be a price. And I'll send you a deal room from Dealhub too to finalize the deal.
Love it, love it, love it. Absolutely love it. Sold. Gilad Zubery, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a real honor to speak with you. And I wish you and Dealhub the best of success and hope to see you again sometime soon.
Thanks so much for having me, Hilton.
Take care.
Have a great day.